Hi, welcome to the Pre-Snore History Hub. So today we're going to be looking at the explain to consequences question. So this question is worth 8 marks and it appears on paper 2 in the Cold War section only. So all of the 3 questions on the Cold War section are all completely different questions to what's on the other papers. Okay, so they're completely new ones. So we're going to be having a look at them, breaking them down in detail. So let's have a look at an example that we can work through together and I'll share some tips with you. So this is the example that we're going to be looking at. So it says explain 2 consequences of the Hungarian uprising of 1956 with 8 marks. However, it's important to note this little bit at the bottom of the mark scheme here, where it says each consequence is worth 4 marks. You need 2 consequences. Okay, so it's kind of marked as 2 4-markers there. So they mark one of your consequences out of 4, and then they mark your other consequence out of 4. Okay, so down here at the bottom, to get 4 out of 4 on one of those consequences, you need to be adding features of the period are analysed to explain a consequence, and specific information about the topic is added to support the explanation, showing good knowledge and understanding of the period. Okay, let me share some top tips with you then. So you should be spending around 8 to 10 minutes, no more than 10 minutes on this question in the exam. Okay, so you've got another 8 marker to do on the Cold War section. And then you've also got a 16 marker that's kind of broken down into 2 8 markers. So you've still got quite a bit of writing to do. So for this one, with it being broken down into 2 short consequences, don't spend any more than 10 minutes on it. Fully explain the consequences of this event. So don't tell a story. So, for example, for this one, don't just tell me a story of what happened in the Hungarian uprising. That's not going to get you many marks because they want to know consequences. Okay, so when you're thinking about what a consequence is, it's a result or effect of something happening. So think about what were the results of the Hungarian uprising or what were the effects of the Hungarian uprising. Okay, so don't just tell a story of what happened. And use lots of subject-specific knowledge. So all of this section on the Cold War, you really need to know your stuff. There's no sources, there's no interpretations, there's nowhere to hide. You simply just need to know your stuff, know your knowledge. Let's have a look at a little writing structure before we dive into this. So you can literally start it. I think of this as 2 parts to each paragraph. So open it with a point, make your point. One consequence of the Hungarian uprising was, okay? So state one a consequence. So for example, increased tension between the superpowers. Then you have to give lots of detailed evidence to explain how and why tension was caused because of that consequence. Okay, then again, repeat it. So another consequence of the Hungarian uprising was make sure your 2 consequences are completely different as well. And don't try and repeat yourself. So I'll have a go then at the first consequence to show you how it's done. Then you can pause the video, have a go at the second one before I show you an example. Okay, so here is my example of the first consequence. So I've said one consequence of the Hungarian uprising was that Khrushchev and the Soviet Union were more powerful in the eyes of the world, and this made them more confident. Okay, so I've stated my points, and one of my points is that the Hungarian uprising made Khrushchev and the Soviet Union a lot more powerful. Okay, then I need to add some detailed knowledge. So how do I know that? What actually happened? What was their aim? So I've said this is because America would do anything to stop them from invading Hungary. Although America condemned the Soviet Union for their behaviour, they would not send a fighting force to stop the Soviet invasion. This was because they claimed it was too far away from them, but really they were more concerned that that in the light of the arms race, they will trigger a nuclear war. As a consequence of them not being stopped, it made them look threatening and powerful. This meant that other satellite states would not attempt to do as Hungary had in the future, thus making the Soviets firmly in control of their Eastern Bloc. Okay, so that's my consequence. The blue bit at the top is the consequence that I'm stating. Red bit is the detailed knowledge that I'm adding in to go with it. Okay, so why don't you have a go now at the second one? So I will leave this structure here for you. So another consequence of the Hungarian uprising was you need to come up with something completely different, then give some evidence for it. So pause the video, have a go on a piece of paper. Okay, so here is my example of consequence 2. So check it against yours. If you didn't get the same consequence, that's fine. Just make sure you've included and added enough detail and it's in this same format and structure. So I've said another consequence of the Hungarian uprising was death and homelessness. This is because when the Soviets re-entered Budapest on the 4th of November 1956, they sent 6,000 tanks to brutally put down the Hungarian rebels. So notice as well how I'm using specific dates and numbers. If you know them, add them in. This was the second wave of riots in 6 weeks. This time the Hungarians were campaigning in favour of Naj's new proposed reforms for Hungary. This included free elections and, controversially, a demand for Hungary to leave the Warsaw Pact. Khrushchev simply couldn't allow Hungary to lead the pact as he feared other satellite states would then follow suit. If they did, this would start to weaken the buffer zone that Stalin had secured 10 years before in order to keep the Soviet Union safe. Consequently, Khrushchev decided to re-enter Hungary with force and crush the rebels once and for all. 20,000 Hungarians were killed in addition to 7,000 Soviets. As a result of the brutality of the Soviets, 200,000 Hungarians fled the country, moving to neighbouring Austria, essentially becoming refugees. Notice as well how I'm using lots of language like as a result of, okay, leading to, consequently. So all of these words of wisdom that suggest that I'm talking about consequences. Okay? So here is the full model answer. If you want to see it all together, you can pause the video. It's exactly what we've just read over. So the first one that I did, second one down there, if you want to pause it and read over it. Okay, thank you. Don't forget to subscribe to the Personal History Hub.